Hey, y'all, welcome to the Common Good Podcast.
But this time we're coming to you from Florida, friends. The Common Good Podcast. Doug and Nick here in sunny Florida. Rob squirreled away somewhere outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And happy good morning to you all. Hey, Rob.
Good morning. We had tornadoes come through last night.
Did you put your shoes on?
Major storm. We had on Sunday we had hail that looked like it snowed here in northwest Arkansas.
Wow.
The hail was so heavy. It was absolutely crazy. And then last night, big storms coming through and tornado watches and a tornado about 15 miles south of us. But we were prepared. You know, my go-to move in a tornado watch or a tornado warning.
That's why I was asking if you had your shoes on while such things happened.
Yes. Whimsy said to me, she's like, "Dad, why did we put our shoes on?" And I said, "If the house is gone and your shoes are halfway to Bentonville, and we've got to walk around in rubble, you're going to want to have your shoes on."
You know what story she's going to remember, though? She's going to say, when I was a little kid, my dad was so thrifty that he was worried about the shoes he had bought me. And when there was a tornado, he was like, "Go get those shoes. We're not losing those. They're going to fly to Bentonville."
That's right.
Somehow you're going to become the miserly old man that was more worried
or
about
lime
the
green
shoes.
Crocs or
I will tell you,
but
Rob,
crazy weather
have
down
told,
here.
I have told many people that story, and they all
Yeah.
do the same thing. When you say, "Yeah, I got this friend," and when something is coming like a tornado or some earthquake, he's like, "Put your shoes on," and everybody laughs until you
And
say,
then they go,
"Because when your house is collapsed, you're going to want to be able to walk through it." They're like, "Of course, I'm going to start putting my shoes on." Like it's probably the greatest disaster tip your average person will.
"Put your shoes on."
Put your shoes on.
Yeah. So we were wearing our shoes inside last night.
You know what we need to do politically and in the social struggle we feel ourselves in? Have the metaphorical, "let's put our shoes on." This podcast is the Put Your Shoes On podcast of the political season. The natural disaster that is Donald Trump has crashed this country, and the debris is everywhere. Friends, it's time to lace up or slip on or Velcro in.
And we need to put the fear of God into those who don't do so. I mean, Rob, if you tell Whimsy that her shoes will be halfway to wherever, is that not frightening? Because I know that Wyatt, my 8-year-old, he is just fearful of tornado sirens anyways. Those things go off and he is just in panic mode. So maybe you should bring it down a notch for Whimsy, so she doesn't grow up, with this fear of tornadoes forever.
Yeah, well, Nick, I'm raising
A warrior.
a strong, brave young woman.
Yeah, I like
person.
it.
Yeah.
No.
And
No,
look,
she
if
was-
the
she
Wizard
actually
of
was
Oz
quite
doesn't
scared.
freak out a child about what can happen through a tornado. I mean, from like the 1900s, it was lift up your house, destroy everything, and put you in a land where there are lions with faces and human faces wandering around.
Yeah,
So,
see, Jim says in the comments, "Don't forget clothing along with your shoes." No, really. No, you just if you have to choose between clothes and shoes in a tornado, the choice is shoes.
Sure. But why choose? Why not gear up into a nice little outfit, ready to work? Maybe some gloves. Maybe you got your work gloves on. You're just riding the storm out, REO Speedwagon style. Hey, for those who wondered what that other voice was was the voice of Nick Brock. If you're listening audio only, if you're on the video, you can see old Nick Brock here. Nick and I are in Florida. Rob is on his way. He'll be here in a bit. We're doing a little bit of plotting and scheming for how can America put our shoes on in the midst of the natural disaster that is Donald Trump. And okay, Rob, there are of course so many things we could talk about that Donald Trump has done that's damaging. I now personally know people who have been captured up by ICE and deported who are not criminals, are not even accused of being criminals, and are being deported. I was a part of a refugee circle, which means it was a group of us who put our own volunteer time and money together to help a family come from Afghanistan. They had worked to support U.S. efforts in Afghanistan. Their lives were in threat. They left the country, came to Minnesota. We've helped them get housing, have become friends, super supportive. Donald Trump has revoked temporary protective status for Afghans, saying it's safe to go back to Afghanistan now. You don't need to be here any longer. People who worked with the United States military and were allowed in the country because of their service to the United States military, Donald Trump is turning America's back on them. There are so many things that are damaging. Of course, crashing the economy, which he's continued to do, taking away free speech, suing news agencies, and news agencies capitulating to them, like the owners of CBS News and ABC News, defying the rulings of judges. It is, had we, on November 3rd, driving around in the Faith, Hope, and Love, supporting Democracy for All bus, started saying, here's what's going to happen by Memorial Day 2025. No one would have thought we were reasonable people.
No.
It would have been
fear-mongering.
It would have been putting our kids' shoes on while they're sleeping on a perfectly clear night, they would have said. I might beat this little metaphor drum far too long. But here we are, nonetheless. Here we are. It's really, really that bad.
Yeah, it really is. And I think the thing that, is stunning is that this is an old man. He's what, 78, 79, 78 years old, something like that? 78. He's going to be 79 when he spends millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars on a military parade.
Hey, U.S. taxpayers' hard-earned money. Say it that way. The way Republicans like to say it when they're going to spend it on, say, SNAP benefits.
I'm trying to be honest about where the money comes from.
Sure. But if a Republican spends it, then it must be money that Republicans believe comes from the hard-earned wallets of Americans.
Yeah. But this guy is absolutely everywhere, inserting himself into everything that's happening in the world. He's been in the Middle East. He's been, oh my goodness. He's inserted himself into Joe Biden's cancer story. He's inserted himself into, the war between Russia and Ukraine. He's going to be on the Hill today. He's just, he talks about entertainers. He makes himself, he's that neighbor who never knows when to go home.
Yeah.
He's just always there. Just give us a break. You don't have to be involved in everything.
Right. Well, especially for those who choose to follow his public statements that he makes through social media, which I don't know that this White House has clarified as specifically as the first term of Donald Trump did, which is his statements on Twitter or now on Truth Social are official presidential actions. The reason they said that was because he was saying things that caused him to be criminally and civilly liable for his statements unless it's protected as presidential speech. So they declared it is presidential speech. So when people say, and friends, if you're hanging around your Trump supporting friends and they say things like, I don't really think about what he says, I only care about what he does, just so you know, Donald Trump believes that his statements are actions. They are presidential actions. They are not simply the ramblings and front of mind thoughts of a guy. So he chose, as you say, Rob, to start insulting Bruce Springsteen, which to some of us strikes pretty close to home, Taylor Swift, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce. Now, granted, these are people who said about Donald Trump that he would be a hazard to the well-being of the planet and everyone who lives on it. And they were right and proven right in the last 120 days. And then even went after a poor little Irishman.
Yeah, there we go.
Why would you do such a thing?
Doug, I felt like...
Who's picking on that old
when
guy,
I saw this
Bono?
post,
I mean, that guy, what has he done? What has he done recently? Probably just minding his own business and, selling some iPods. Did Bono say something? Why is he going after Bono? I don't follow Bono's career quite as much as one of those other people, but what did Bono do?
The mere existence of Bono is a threat to Donald Trump.
The beautiful voice is too much. You just can't live with the beautiful
The
voice.
goodness personified. Listen, when I saw that Donald Trump went on Truth Social and went after Bruce Springsteen and Bono, I thought, he's going after me and Doug.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
he's
getting
coming
personal.
after our guy. Like, he's coming after our guys. This is like if Donald Trump had insulted our wives, and what are we supposed to do? Become like his biggest supporter in the United States Senate? Hey, Ted Cruz, how you doing?
Good one.
No, them's are fighting words, as they used to say. And to think that Donald Trump would come after Bruce Springsteen and Bono is just, this is everything he's done. This is a step too far. And I know, Doug, that you're the Bruce Springsteen guy, and you'll come to Bruce's defense. But before you do, I gotta say something. Donald Trump called Bruce Springsteen a dried up prune whose skin has atrophied, insulting the looks of Bruce Springsteen, who had the gall to, criticize the president of the United States. How dare you? Called him a dried up prune. 2 years ago, my wife and I went to Tulsa, Oklahoma, to the BOK Center, in a building that hosts a lot of concerts and has terrible acoustics, which is not a good combination. We saw Bruce Springsteen in concert. He played for 3 hours nonstop. It was one of those just really amazing experiences. At one point during the concert, Bruce Springsteen took off his shirt. He's a man in his 70s. My wife was standing next to me. And as the kids say, she was ready to risk it all. There was an audible gasp from beside me, and it wasn't because Bruce Springsteen looked like a dried up prune with atrophied skin. Wow. This is a man in his 70s who, still looks like a Greek god.
I'll tell you, as a 56-year-old man, I too was sitting at a Bruce Springsteen concert, and the person sitting next to me when that happened also heard an audible gasp and a sense of
but it came
longing and
you were
desire.
ready to risk it all.
It was Bruce Springsteen is a lot of things, but a dried up prune, he is not. But look, and here's something. I think there's something more important about this than what to a lot of us would feel like on the surface. This is one of the statements that current president of the United States, while running a tariff war everywhere in the world, has caused the stock market to crash and shelves are starting to empty out, who is causing great distress in every area of American life, spent time writing a post that says, how much did Kamala Harris pay Bruce Springsteen for his poor performance during her campaign? Why did he accept that money if he's such a big fan of hers? Isn't that a major and illegal campaign contribution? What about Beyonce? He goes on to say. How much went to Oprah and to Bono? Okay, just pause for a second. If you're on the screen, take a look at those words from Donald Trump. How much, he asks, did Kamala Harris's campaign pay Bruce Springsteen or Oprah or Beyonce or Bono? Isn't that a campaign contribution violation? Think about the words. The campaign paid them, Trump accuses. So is that not a campaign contribution violation? Literally, by definition, the people he's claiming, Bruce Springsteen, Oprah Winfrey, Beyonce, Bono, didn't contribute to the campaign. The campaign contributed to them. Had Bruce Springsteen incurred costs, staging costs, production costs, to come and perform at a campaign, and if the campaign had not paid for those costs would have been considered an in-kind contribution to the campaign. Because the campaign paid for those expenses, it was not a contribution. That's why the campaign reimburses for expenses, so that a business,
yes, because the
production company
will,
business,
the expenses will exceed the contribution limit. There's a limit of $3,500 per election. So for the primary and for the general, of course, there wasn't a primary this time around. Thank you, Joe Biden. Yeah, so there's a $3,500 limit. The expenses are going to far exceed that, and
so
that's
the
why
thing
they have
he
to
is
be
complaining
reimbursed.
about, that the campaign reimbursed, and the way he knows this is they identified it in campaign finance filings. Stop for a minute and think why Donald Trump was convicted of 34 felonies in New York for not claiming the expenses that he paid to keep Stormy Daniels quiet. He wasn't convicted for paying her. He was convicted for covering it up and lying about it and never reporting it, therefore making it a contribution that he made. So the guy can't even get it right. The very thing he was convicted of felony crimes in New York for, he now has it backward and writes as a statement from the President of the United States that they committed the crime by reimbursing expenses, which is what he said he did in his own crime with Stormy Daniels' payment.
Yes.
He has it backward. He is again confessing he doesn't know what he's saying. This is what's profoundly dangerous, and not just pop culture fun, or getting millions more people worried about Donald Trump because he's, slandering celebrities that people like. The actual content of his statements are fundamentally wrong. Then he tries to call them paid endorsements. This is the guy who gave Elon Musk control of Doge as repayment for campaign endorsement. This is a guy who partners with Elon Musk, who's literally giving people $1 million in a raffle if they will support the nominee for the Supreme Court seat in Wisconsin. It is so insane. So if people say, like, who cares if he's attacking Bono or Bruce Springsteen or Taylor Swift or Beyonce or Oprah, it's not just that he's attacking them. He is writing as the President of the United States that their actions are illegal when their actions are precisely the legal way he should have done it when he was violating the law in the state of New York.
I think, Rob, this goes back to your earlier point where the president is all over the place. He's all over the news, right? Every time we check in, social media, on our news apps, it's like President Trump and whatever he's doing. So it doesn't matter what he says. It doesn't have to be fact. It's just the underlying, I think, genius of himself and the administration is that they can be constantly in the news, churning out things for getting people to talk about and debate, just as a distraction from really kind of what's going on. I think that's, I mean, to me, all these tweets, all the things, that's what it kind of boils down to, is how can they control the media narrative and what's going on. And then it gets into this whole, like, what is actually going on, what's actually important, and then people get bogged down and then they just kind of bail out because there's too much. And I have friends like this and family, there's just like too much going on, so they bow out. And I think that's part of the genius of what's going on, unfortunately.
Yep, I think you're right about that, Nick. I mean, when you pull back a second, though, why is Donald Trump relitigating the presidential election that he won? He's going back and accusing the Harris campaign of impropriety, getting it mixed up, getting it wrong, as you mentioned, Doug. Including in that taking shots at celebrities like Springsteen and Bono and Oprah and Taylor Swift and Beyonce. But why is this election on his mind? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me at all.
Well, here's what I think is going on. Every time Donald Trump puts up a post like he does right now, on this post that says, the one that he then wrote a few hours later on the same day. By the way, the earlier truth post that we saw, written at 12:35 a.m. This post at 8:11 a.m. This man needs to sleep. And not during meetings with the Saudis. He needs to sleep at night the way everyone else is. Honest to goodness, this guy is like, it's like having a junior hire around that you have to take their phone away at night so they can get to sleep and don't say the things they say. It's just remarkable, his bad behavior. And I am sorry to insult.
The charger is in the living room where you plug your phone in there and leave it in the living room rather than taking it to your bedroom with you.
To your bedroom. He says, remember, in this second post, and here's where it's dangerous. Remember, the Democrats and Kamala Harris illegally paid her, Beyonce, millions of dollars for doing nothing other than giving Kamala a full-throated endorsement. In all caps, this is illegal election scam at the highest level. It is illegal campaign contribution. Bruce Springsteen, Oprah, Bono, perhaps many others have a lot of explaining to do. The President of the United States, among other things, being the Commander-in-Chief, is also the top law enforcement officer, has just made another claim that American citizens have violated the law. Because there are people who, by duty and by affection, will do whatever Donald Trump tells them to do. There are people right now looking to see if legal criminal action can be brought against American citizens. And does Donald Trump know that there's teeth to illegal contributions of the financial style in politics? Yes, he does, because he is a 34-time convicted felon. So what he is saying, here's why I think he's doing it. And here's why I think it's not just distraction. Donald Trump actually doesn't waste his time on distraction. He is moving the apparatus of the legal forces of America against these people. That is what he is doing. This is the same threat he put out against news agencies, law firms, judges that have been arrested, mayors that have been confined. These are the very behaviors that what Donald Trump has done the last 120 days is not a bunch of smoke so we don't see what he's doing. He's doing it in plain sight, gathering up American residents and sending them to prisons in other countries. Saying he was going to do it, doing it, bragging about it. Then when he's told by the Supreme Court to reverse it, he doesn't. That's what's going on here. This man is not idle threats at all anymore. Stephen Miller, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, these people pay more attention to his Truth Social posts than we do. So if you think people aren't acting on this right now, they are acting on this right now. And that is what is dangerous. This is how you go after your political enemies. Now, curiously, who has he never actually gone after using the legal apparatus of the United States of America? Hillary Clinton, who he said committed crimes. Joe Biden, who they spent 4 years saying that he had taken illegal contributions of $10 million from China, and it's all on Hunter Biden's laptop. Where's that investigation? Why is the House not looking into it? They spent time when Trump was not the president, railing about the laptop. What has happened since he's become president? Nothing on that front. That was all a boondoggle. Now he's turned his sights on these people. Because he knows there is nothing there. This is all designed to try to stop free speech and say we will use the power of the law enforcement agencies of the United States to come after my political opponents. And you know what? Who's going to be frustrated? All of our Trump supporting friends when he doesn't do anything about it. But the point of it is to use the power of law enforcement to do his bidding. And that is what makes him a strong man. This is why when people are like, you guys will keep talking about him being a dictator, that he was joking when he said a dictator on one day, that he loves guys like Putin, and he loves guys like Erdogan in Hungary. He loves all those other people, and you guys are freaking out about it, and there's nothing there. This is straight out of the playbook of how they do it. And then in flash bang news, what did the Trump Justice Department just strike a deal for? To pay the family members of Ashley Babbitt, who was killed because of her activity of attacking the U.S. Capitol, for the United States government to pay her $5 million. Pardoned all the criminals and now are paying her. She is the hero.
Our hard-earned tax dollars are going to pay the family of Ashley Babbitt.
Are going to pay Ashley Babbitt, while Bruce Springsteen is called a criminal. This is the world. And with all due respect, this is not a smokescreen. This is what they literally want to do. The criminal in chief wants to take the criminals, pardon them, make them heroes, have them march in the very parade for his birthday, pay the person who was killed $5 million, not pay the officers' families of people who died in those actions. And then to say that the political opponents of his are the criminals. That is America Trump style. And the thing Bruce Springsteen said was essentially that.
Yes.
Right? If you haven't seen why Donald Trump is so mad at Bruce Springsteen currently, it's because a little video went viral of 5 minutes of his commentary during his concert in Manchester, England. That is a soliloquy of Springsteen's style, and it is devastating to Donald Trump's behavior. And that's why he's going after him, because it's, I don't know.
Yep.
What do the kids call it these days? Trending on the socials.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay.
Kids say trending?
I think that's it.
Doug, the other big news was the revelation that the President Joe Biden has prostate cancer. Seems like it's an aggressive form of the cancer that is metastasized to his bones. Apparently, there's some treatment options, but this news, kind of shocking and disheartening, coming at a time when the news about President Joe Biden has not been good. The release of Jake Tapper's book about his presidency, particularly his mental decline, and there's stories about him not recognizing George Clooney at a fundraiser that George Clooney was hosting. There's I just saw a headline on CNN that was what are we doing here? Democrats were shocked at Biden's decline but stayed quiet, according to a new book. So at this moment where the Biden presidency is really coming under fire, at the same time, we now have the news that he's got this, real personal physical crisis. And I wish that we could spend our time talking about Joe Biden as a human being, Joe Biden's family's history with cancer, and the inspiration that he could be in the midst of this, and wishing him well. But instead, Donald Trump and his family have inserted themselves into this story as well. So first of all, the tweet from Don Jr. If you have not seen this, I texted it to you, Doug, so that's nice. It was in a group text.
I get a lot of texts. No, I didn't see this one.
You're not ready you have not seen this?
I have not.
You are not ready for this.
Treat me like the listening audience that perhaps our
Here
Twitter
you go.
accounts were canceled.
Have you seen this, Nick? Do you know what tweet I'm about to read?
No, I'm going to read it off Doug's phone and listen to you.
Here we go. Don Jr. said, "What I want to know is, how did Dr. Jill Biden miss stage 5 metastatic cancer, or is this yet another cover-up?"
She has a doctorate in education.
Yeah.
She's not a medical doctor.
Yeah. And there's no such thing as stage 5 cancer. It only goes up to stage 4.
Mm-hmm.
What I want to know is, how did Dr. Joe Biden miss stage 5
education.
metastatic cancer, or is this yet another cover-up? So that's Don Jr., future president of the United States.
I was just going to say, I think this lays waste to your fears that Don Jr. will become the heir apparent to the great leader of MAGA. But this probably could be the kind of thing that could compel him, as Donald Trump has felt the need to explain to the American people and the Saudis the word groceries, that it's an old-fashioned word and people didn't know
funny.
what they meant, what it means, but it means all the things you buy at the grocery store. We refer to those as groceries. That Don Jr. will now be credited with a great advancement in medical science by declaring a 5th stage of cancer. That is what he has done. That is, he has opened up the minds of cancer researchers to understand that there's now a 5th stage. The way people talk about the 9th human sense, he will be credited with that in MAGA land.
Doug, did you see when Donald Trump was asked about Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis?
I did
and
not.
what his reply? It began with some well wishes, and can you guess what it ended with?
But he was the worst president we've ever had.
No.
Well,
No. It ended with Donald Trump talking about the physical that he took, which included a cognitive test that he aced.
well, look, perhaps Donald Trump did ace the cognitive test, and he's not in cognitive decline. He's just stupid. Maybe he's just flat out. I mean, in some ways, granting that Donald Trump can't stay awake, can't remember things, loses his speech, slurs his speech, doesn't know what he's talking about, loses track and starts talking about whales and windmills and the word groceries. Maybe he's just dumb.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could be.
You would sort of hope someone would think like, no, I used to be bright. But I've watched now, for some reason, I'm watching these reels that show up on Facebook. And there's a bunch of old interviews from Donald Trump in the 80s, like with Barbara Walters. And turns out he says the same kind of knucklehead things when he's in his 40s. It's just a lifetime of saying, if you haven't seen those interviews, go ahead and, I don't know how you search for reels, but you could probably search for the Barbara Walters interview with Donald Trump. And she's just going after him. She's just like, nope, that's not true. That's not true. That's not true. We talked to your bankers. You're broke. You're in bankruptcy. None of that is true. And he just doesn't care. He just says words that do not reflect reality. Literally has just been talking about, as Yabit says, drones and lumberjacks. Nonstop. When he's trying to talk about the Ukraine war, he talks about drones that are cutting down trees with fire, and his commerce secretary, I think it was, who used to be a lumberjack champion. It's just utterly bizarre. But back to Biden. Look, Joe Biden was in great cognitive decline. Of course he was. That's why we never heard from him. That's why they protected him. And frankly, we saw the debate. Do you remember, Rob, the looks on our faces when we did a post-debate live stream?
Yeah.
It was like, this man cannot run
was
for
a real
another
bump.
term. It was beyond credulity to suggest that he could still be president 5 years later after that debate.
Yeah.
Come on, Democrats. Come on, Biden team. You did this to the party. You did this to America. Joe Biden did it. He put his own desire to run for re-election over the fact of his own well-being. Now, should Democrats have been able to beat Donald Trump anyway, a convicted felon who ran January 6th and then yes. But did the Biden campaign, did the Biden team not do its full job? We've been over this, and I'm glad to go over it again. It's like being a professional catcher in baseball. You not only have to be able to catch the ball, you have to be able to call the pitches, and you have to be able to throw somebody out at second base. You don't get to do one of those three and say, I'm just good at catching the ball. Biden can't simply say, I understood policy and I put the best policies in place. That's one part of the job. There's more to being president than that. And he was not doing the other things, articulating the view of America and giving America confidence in him.
Yes.
And people knew it. And the reason he didn't do those other things was he couldn't.
Yes.
And yet the party said, but here's the thing for everybody who's going to complain about Democrats like we are. The Biden team is not the current Democratic Party. It was never the completion of the Democratic Party. But the way politics are set in America is the standing president is the standard bearer. And that standard bearer has all kinds of power. And the second they are not the standard bearer, the power is gone. Ask Barack Obama, ask Bill Clinton, ask George Bush if they still have power in the party. They don't. So we all need to make a Democratic Party that looks like the next iteration and not the last one. Not to say we shouldn't be paying attention to what the Biden team did and how Democrats became complicit in it and how hard it is. Look, the one thing it could do is give Democrats a little bit of empathy for their Republican counterparts who we keep saying to them, why don't you just take the party back from Donald Trump? It's not designed to be taken back from the standard bearer.
Yeah.
Now, they capitulated after Trump left office. They should have crushed him with a heel on his neck. And instead, they slid right under his slimy little belly and gave him a hug.
Yep. Yep.
And if you don't know that reference, that's a Bible reference from the book of Genesis.
Yep.
The serpent.
And it really is a marked contrast between Joe Biden and his presidency and what we're seeing out of Donald Trump. And I hate to give the guy credit in any way, shape, or form, but he's been all over the world. He has, as we've talked about, has inserted himself into everything. And today, he's up on the Hill, meeting with Congress people, advocating for his one big, beautiful bill. And there is maybe it's some kind of supplement or, I don't know. Maybe he just has this kind of stamina. We are seeing a vitality out of Donald Trump that we never saw out of Joe Biden. And we are seeing a vitality out of him that, frankly, is, for those of us that are critics of his, I'm sorry, birds just flew into the window of my office here.
Even the birds don't want to live in Trump's America.
Yeah, exactly. We're seeing a vitality out of him that, frankly, for those of us that are critical of Donald Trump, should be worrisome. And to your point, Doug, about him being this, the head of the party completely. Listen to this exchange that just took place about a half an hour ago. A reporter asked him, and he's standing next to Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who looks tremendously uncomfortable. Reporter asks him, what do you plan to tell the fiscal hawks? Trump, I'm a fiscal hawk. There's nobody like me as a fiscal hawk. Reporter, do you think Tom Massey, congressman who opposes Trump's big spending bill, is correct that this is adding Biden-level spending? Trump's response, I don't think Tom Massey understands government. I think he should be voted out of office.
Tom Massey. Rob, let us know who Tom Massey is that Donald Trump thinks does not understand this.
Tom Massey is a congressman from Kentucky. he is a Republican. He is one of the most conservative Republicans in the House of Representatives. He has very often gone along with Donald Trump's really terrible ideas. And yet at times, he has been one of the few Republicans who have stood on principle and said, no, we're not going to go along with this. He was for a while under consideration to be a part of the administration to join RFK Jr. in the health department side of things, Health and Human Services. But instead, he stayed in Congress. Who knows? He could run for Senate from Kentucky to replace a retiring Mitch McConnell. But Tom Massey is a Republican of the Republicans.
Yes. One might consider him to be a fiscal hawk.
Yeah.
And then Donald Trump, who
and here is Donald Trump saying
created the
he
greatest
should be voted out of office.
The greatest deficit of any president ever, will do it again, and says that other guy, because he opposes Trump's bill, should be voted out of office. I like, Louise says in the chat there on Facebook, she says we should refer to it as the big bad billionaire bill. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's good.
The big bad billionaire bill, Donald Trump's big bad billionaire bill, is a better way to talk about this bill. Look, the Republicans are having a very hard time reconciling what they're going to do. And it is an indication of how much worse it's going to get every week from here until the end of the Trump administration for Trump. Because the one thing they know to be true, that I know, some of you get your fingers ready right now to tell me that we're not going to have a legal election in 2028 and all the rest of this. Go ahead and say it. Get ready to say all that. The Republicans know that Donald Trump is not going to be the presidential nominee or the president after the end of this term. The election in 2028 will be for someone other than Donald Trump on the Republican side. So they already know that. They also know that many Trump supporters are never going to stay in the Republican Party. That if people like Bill Massey, or if people like Mike Johnson, as I think wrong as they are about America and fiscal issues, as if they take Josh Hawley, if they even take little Marco Rubio and make him the standard bearer, even J.D. Vance, Pope Killer in chief, even if they take those guys and make them the standard bearer, all these Trump lovers, all these Donald sycophants, they're not sticking with the Republican Party. I mean, it is splintering already over all kinds of issues that Trump promised the hardcore MAGA, like you're going to tell us about the Epstein files that people are dumping off. And they're going to have a very hard time holding this together, because you know what Donald Trump will do when he's not the presidential nominee? He will dog every one of them who's ever said anything about him, as if it was Bruce Springsteen himself. He will probably say after Massey, I think we need to investigate him, Pam Bondi. Here are the orders. So this is a big indicator that Donald Trump is up there. His bill that he's trying to push doesn't have the support that it needs. It's not going to get the support that's necessary. They're not going to cut Medicare the way that they wanted to. They might cut it severely, but not as much as they wanted to. And that's going to just damage the healthcare system. And there's a whole bunch of people that are like, we're not going to run up the deficit for you, Donald. And he's going to be furious with them at the end of the day today. But I think these people are now making the calculation that come the midterms, look, Massey is safe unless he decides to run for Senate. He's safe in his seat. Mm-hmm. And if our work and everybody else's work on the righteous side of all of this is effective, they're not going to be in power in spring of 2027. The Republicans are not going to be in control of the House. So this is their shot. This is it. This is what they can try to pull off. And then they're just like in 2016, 17, 18, then they're going to be out.
Yep.
But are they going to give away a bunch of tax breaks again? Well, what they're really going to do is they're going to extend the project that they started in 2017. That's what they're going to do with this big bad billionaire bill. They're going to extend that, and they're going to do cuts to Medicaid and Medicare in order to try to reduce the amount of implication on the U.S. federal budget. That's what this is about. Literally taking money away from Medicare in order to make sure the deficit impacts are not as high as they were in 2017 and will be if they don't make these cuts. And they promised they weren't going to cut Medicare. And now they're trying to literally say, we're not cutting Medicare. It's like saying, to your child, hey, I used to give you an allowance. Now I'm not giving you an allowance of $100 a month, but I'm going to cut your rent that you have to pay here at the house by $100 a month. So that's pretty much an even wash. Right? Like, no, Dad, I didn't used to pay rent. Well, now you will, but I'm going to cut it by $100. Yeah. So it's like, this is how they treat this sort of thing. And by the way, if you think Medicare only goes to like the poorest of the poor, it actually undergirds
Doug,
the entire medical system in America. And people who know this know that these cuts are not just going to take money away from Medicaid in some states, and some people aren't going to be able to have the reimbursement level they did through Obamacare. The health system is based on certain Medicare payments. And when those are reduced, there's not enough money to run the entire system. It's really going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Hey, Rob, let's talk about
Doug,
Walmart saying that it has to pay the tariffs, shall we?
Yeah.
Your hometown.
Well, Walmart
business?
doesn't have to pay the tariffs. Customers do.
Well, Walmart said in their last earnings call, we, Walmart, are not going to pass all the tariff costs on. We are going to take it out of Walmart profits.
Yeah.
And Donald Trump said in a post, they should.
Yeah, they should eat the tariffs.
Why are they eating tariffs when China and Vietnam and the island with the penguins pay them? I don't understand.
I thought Mexico was going to pay for the wall, Doug. It's almost as if Donald Trump expects other people to pay for stuff, and he actually has no authority to make that happen. Yeah, he's not so good at this. He's not so good at this. Yeah, and we are on our way now into Trumpflation, and as a result of the tariffs, prices are going up. They're going up in Walmart. They're going up in Target. We're seeing it happen already, and as anybody with a brain knew, the cost of the tariffs was primarily going to be passed on to consumers.
Yes.
And which is going to cause price increase on everything.
Now look, had Donald Trump come out and said this, let me make a tariff argument that he could have made. If he had said, things that are being made in other countries are much cheaper than making them in the United States. So here's what we want. We want things to be made in the United States. So we're going to put a tariff on things that are made in other countries so that the cost between things made in other countries and things made in the United States is closer, so that competitors to overseas manufacturing have a chance in the United States because the cost is closer. So we are going to apply an extra fee to something made in places outside the United States to level that cost so that manufacturing will move to the United States. Had he said that, Americans could have said, oh, okay, I don't want a toaster that costs $100. I want a toaster that costs $133 or $187 or $240 based on the tariffs that he's had at different points on China. I want to buy a toaster for more money because maybe the toaster will be made in the United States and that will have some impact on the economy in the United States. Had he said that, people may have said, okay, let's do that. He didn't say that. He said China will pay more money to make them, and therefore they won't want to make them anymore, and then people will make them in the United States. Now, the American people, I think, would have said, I don't really care if toasters are made in the United States. I don't want to pay $133, $147, or $87, or $244. I don't want to pay that much for a toaster. We'd be very happy to keep having a global economy where some things are made in some parts of the world and other things are made in this part of the world, and that works fine. Or had Donald Trump said, we are going to invest in giving businesses everything they need to make toasters and every other thing made in China in the United States. But had he said that, people would have said, we don't have the infrastructure for manufacturing in the United States. And by infrastructure, we don't mean the buildings and the robots. We mean the people who want to work in those places and make toasters. We don't want to. And they also would have said the other thing we don't want is for China to not become a developing economy. Because the best thing to keep us in good stead with any nation in the world for the last 100 years has been active trade policy. The State Department, the military, everybody who works in international affairs would have been saying the best thing you can do to have good international relationships is trade. That's what you want. Literally from the time of Marco Polo forward, trade has been the alternative to war. This is why Donald Trump doesn't explain it that way, because it doesn't make sense to try to cripple the economy of China. Third point, you can't cripple the economy of China because China is building for people everywhere in the world. So the only ones who will be on the outs is the United States. And this is why Donald Trump negotiated with himself and is now removing the very tariffs that he threatened. It's just, they're bad on tariffs, even if they tried to explain them effectively. Now, if you put it on some products like electric cars, great. You know why you never see electric cars from China in the United States? Because there's a 200% tariff. That's why. We don't want electric cars here. You know why? Because we can make electric cars here in the United States, and it's good for us to make electric cars. We don't want to make toasters. We want to make electric cars. We want to make silicon chips, which is the CHIPS Act. So we want to put big tariffs on silicon chips so they can be made in the United States because we want to make those here. That's the kind of smart tariff policy that an administration can do. And that sometimes the Trump administration did in the first term because Trump's impulses were limited by the people who were in control of his administration. And now they're not, and now we have this nonsense. And Walmart then says to its investors, you will see less earnings because we will spend more money paying it to the federal government for all the things that we're choosing to have manufactured in China. We will pay the federal government 33% for everything we buy. So the Treasury will take in more dollars to reduce the deficit so that Donald Trump can give tax breaks in his big, bad billionaire bill. Those things are linked. That bill and tariffs are linked. It's the way they're going to try to pay for them. With American companies, American consumers, American importers paying money to the federal government. So if you don't like paying money to the federal government, you should hate all tariffs because that's what they are. That's who gets the money, the federal government.
You know, this is a question that I had asked a Trump supporting friend of mine, and I'm sure you guys have asked as well. It's like, how long? We were like 100 days into the new Trump administration, and all these things were cascading down. And I said, how long are you willing to put up with these tariffs? I mean, like, to what? And he's a small business owner, just a very small business, trying to make a go of it. And I was like, how long are you willing to deal with these? And kind of the answer that I got was like, well, we'll kind of wait and see. So there's like this. What I've seen too is just the lack of a policy, right? There's nothing out there. If it was articulated better, now I think you can make that argument for bringing some jobs back, or kind of negotiating the tariffs. I mean, this is something that Democrat Alyssa Slotkin from Michigan, the representative, has argued, and I think some Democrats are arguing. Like tariffs can work, and they were even in the Biden administration, right? Holdovers from the Trump administration, like they can work, but to what degree does a no plan policy that tanks Wall Street and that puts businesses and consumers like totally have no confidence? How long? I just wonder how long can consumers like all of us, the voters, put up with this? 100 days, 300 days, who knows? Like what is it? And I was just at Walmart this morning because that's kind of where I go to get some of my goods when I'm down here in Florida. So I wonder too, like how much are these kind of the good Walmart types, those folks are willing to put up with. And hello, Peggy. Thank you for saying hi.
Yeah, and if inflation goes up, as you said earlier, Rob, that now we're about to enter into the age of Trumpflation, is that going to affect anyone? Well, here's what we know. A lot of us, when we're hearing Bidenflation, we're like, it's actually not that severe. That's what we're going to hear from Trump people. Just pure denial that they hated inflation under Biden. They'll say it's no big deal under Trump. Some of us who felt it was no big deal under Biden will hate it under Trump. So, I mean, it doesn't go. I guess it's not too much of a news story to say inflation is a political reality, but So I think people aren't going to buckle under it. They're not going to care because somehow Trump's going to keep telling people that gas is $1.98. Just Google it. Just Google gas prices. You're down 30%, 40% in natural fluctuations because the economy is slowing. That's why gas prices are coming down. What Republican president ever said, gas prices are coming down, that's great, and it's caused by a slowing economy, and thought that was a good thing? But again, Trump doesn't care about a good economy. Trump cares about people liking him. So the minute people don't like him, just like on these tariffs, the minute people started not liking him, he buckled. What else you got, Rob?
Former FBI Director Jim Comey got a visit from the Secret Service this week, Doug, because he posted on social media a little picture of himself at the not a picture of himself at the beach, but a picture of some little artwork that he did at the beach, where he arranged some shells to spell out 8647.
Yeah, or someone did, and he took a picture. Don't know if he stumbled upon them. I had read it the story as he stumbled upon them. Maybe there's new reporting that he arranged them. Jim Comey
I hadn't heard
6'9".
that.
I cannot imagine Jim Comey stepping down on the beach and arranging shells. But
how many, Doug, down at Tiger Tail Beach in Marco Island? How many 8647 shell formations have you made?
I've made zero. But truthfully, I've made zero shell formations spelling any numbers or words in my life. So I'm the wrong guy for that. I haven't seen any down here at the Gulf of Mexico either. What we've seen. What do you think about that? That Comey posts this picture, and then of course people get freaked out because they think 86 is not just a restaurant term for getting rid of a bad customer or a bad product or something, but that it means to kill or to eliminate.
86 has been used both ways. Let's be honest here.
Yes, of course it is.
And it is, the the Trump haters who are throwing up their hands saying, "Oh no, 86 just means to throw in the garbage." Like, come on.
Yeah, you may not know that in some culture, in some subsets of the United States, it doesn't mean to throw it away. It means to 86 somebody. I mean, that's
Yeah.
popular colloquialism of that term.
Yes.
For sure.
Or kill. Yes.
Yeah, to kill someone. Yes. Yeah, that's how it's used. Could James Comey have not known that? Totally, he could have not known that.
What? Because of his extensive restaurant experience? Come on.
Yeah, I just think it's
This
totally
is
possible.
totally
that someone,
inappropriate for James
Of course.
Comey to post this. He might find it funny. Ha ha ha, look at this. Look what I found. It's amusing. It's clever. Don't text it to your group text
Yes. Okay.
where
Larger point
your
here.
buddy will, may or may not see it. Don't post it on social media.
Yes.
There are
First of
tons
all-
of things I send to the group text I don't post on social media. Realize who you are, James Comey, and don't post this
Yes.
picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Send it in the
He
unsecured
deserves all of the
chat.
criticism he's getting.
Put it in the
100%.
unsecured signal chat, the way that
Yes.
the Defense Department secretary has chosen to share military secrets. That's what you do with this kind of thing.
That's right.
No, that's right. I mean, this was my response. That look, James Comey very well may not have known the larger use of that meaning. Fair enough. Can't judge whether he knows slang or not. In fact, being the FBI director may have kept him out of things where he would know this term. The moment you find out that's what it is, you fall on your proverbial Instagram sword. You come out and say, I didn't think of it that way. Not like, well, I had no idea people would interpret it that way. Like, oh, I'm sorry if my behavior hurt you. If no, just come out, just take care of it yourself. But a bigger point, what are you doing on Instagram? And just all of us, let's just ask ourselves, what do we think we're doing? If you're the former FBI director whose lack of judgment before a presidential election in 2016 was to announce the reopening of an investigation into the Democratic candidate Hillary Clinton weeks before the election, and you're just out on Instagram trying to, like, I don't know, pick up some followers or say to people funny stuff. It's so weird to me it's weird to me of a lot of people who choose to be on Instagram and just like snarking around. But the former FBI, and I don't know what James Comey does now, but I would imagine it's a significant role somewhere. If you're the former FBI director and have had
he's walking on the beach.
all the other people with significant jobs still walk on beaches. He could have a very significant role somewhere. Yeah, look at us. Look at us in about 25 minutes. Why is he on Instagram in the first place? What's he doing? Truly, like literally, what is he doing? What else does he post? And you should shut down your account because you've proven yourself to not have the colloquial judgments of phrasing. If you're going to be on Instagram, you better know what things. So he doesn't need to have known what it meant, but the fact that he doesn't know what it meant is probably something that should say, okay, it's not your medium. Stop being snarky. And then our friend, Adam Kissinger, the guy who voted for Trump in 2020 and then regretted it, that guy when he was a Republican, remember that guy?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He and Liz Cheney, who voted for Donald Trump in 2020 and now are anti-Trumpers. The kind of people that took a long time to get, they needed a lot of proof. They needed an insurrection. Fair enough. I'm still not over that one. They put out some cute little thing that said, someone needs to find Jenny, 8675309 in shells, making light of it. Okay, you two in your little pack, I think you might want to check your judgment as well. Hasn't been the sharpest in the last half decade to be now making fun of the fact that people are freaking out that the former FBI director doesn't know what to post on Instagram. It's ridiculous.
And James Comey, go away. Go away. You have done enough damage.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you relaunched a investigation into Hillary Clinton a couple of weeks before the presidential election in 2016, virtually giving the presidency to Donald Trump in the first place? Do you remember when you did not report news, you did not make the American public aware of Russian
engagement,
tampering in the American election in 2016? Do you remember your Russiagate report that, just Jim Comey, go away. Go away. We're done with you. Thank you for your service.
Do you follow him on Instagram?
Go away. No. No.
I wonder how many followers he has on Instagram. Do you know? Have you looked that up?
Oh, goodness. I'm about to look up Jim Comey on Instagram.
And look to your point much earlier, political violence is a real problem in America. And we shouldn't take it lightly because Trump people attacked the U.S. Capitol. 2 former or current Republicans credibly tried to assassinate Donald Trump during the campaign. It's a serious thing. So, James Comey, if you realize you stepped in it, didn't think it was meant, could be construed, or has ever been used as that phrase, own it and step away. But instead, like so often is the case, he acted like the problem was the people who interpreted it that way. It's just like,
yes.
Oh,
well,
my
what? What? I didn't know. What? I know. Oh, come on.
Because you're trying to pick up a bunch of likes. Like, look, as a upper middle-aged man who uses social media, I know the tendency that it is to want to get people to think you're funny.
The dopamine hit of like,
Okay, and let's just add this.
Oh, he's verified.
Not all that clever.
Take a guess at how many followers he has.
8647 in shells. Not even all that clever. You're not even, like, even if it didn't mean that, it just meant get rid of him. That's not even the only thing that would make it newsworthy is that it was the former FBI director, James Comey. Right? So you don't even have the judgment to put up funny stuff. How many followers does he have, Rob?
Okay, I'm going to tell you the number of followers he has, and you're going to tell me the number of people he's following.
Okay.
Okay? He has 138,000 followers.
Okay.
Which in the Instagram world is not that much.
Yeah, but it's
it's way more than I have.
More than us, yeah. Combined.
Yes. How many people do you think he's following?
7.
Nick?
It's got to be. I'm gonna go more. I'm gonna go more than the people following him.
Okay, Price is right. So more than 138,000.
Yep.
That seems about right.
He's following one person.
Wow.
Donald Trump?
So, listen, if you're following one person on Instagram, which is the Kettering Foundation, which, holy cow, how boring is that?
Yeah.
You're not using Instagram the way it was designed to be used.
Bingo. What are you doing over there?
Hey, we have clever, Jim. Clever.
Jim, among the most clever people on YouTube,
there is someone we know who follows
8,647 followers. Good one, Jim.
There is one person we know who's following Jim Comey. A friend
John
of ours.
Pavlovitz.
Oh, good guess.
Shane Claiborne.
Cole.
Cole Hillman. How do you like that?
Coleslaw himself.
I'll look at a bit. I might have some more. That's fun. Hey, Peggy says Afghans to be deported. Yeah, Peggy, we talked about that at the very start of this. Among the very, very tragic things the Trump administration is doing. And if you're a Trump supporter, have Trump supporting friends, ask them if they approve of Afghan refugees who came to the United States after the Taliban took over Afghanistan. And they came as people seeking refugee status because they were supporting the United States government in Afghanistan, that Trump has removed temporary protective status, and their plans are to deport them back to Afghanistan. Ask yourself if that's the deal that you voted for. It's put your shoes on, folks. The natural disaster that is Donald Trump continues to ravage the American psyche and landscape and the American reality. All right, from somewhere outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas, in some unincorporated, undetected area, protected like Dick Cheney's airspace, Rob Ryerson.
Or at my house in Spring.
Or in Bentonville.
Yeah, it's my house, which is now in Bentonville because of the tornado.
Because the tornado blew it there. And Nick and Doug in Good Force One, the vehicle of common goodery that's currently in Florida and making its way through the heart of the country this next weekend to get itself ready and revved up to be of service to the American people. I kind of feel like we should travel with shoes. I just really feel like this shoe thing could be an operative metaphor for us.
Yeah. Maybe
we throw them over. Here's an idea that I thought could work, because I saw this once.
It's a metaphor, and it's a safety tip.
we could throw the shoes over phone and power lines in neighborhoods as an indicator, because I think that's kind of meaning free. And it just means put your shoes on, because the natural disaster that is Donald Trump is afflicting America. And like in a tornado or other natural disasters, you want to be sure your feet are protected if you need to get out of your house and make a run for it. Especially, unclothed, as you might be in the Rob Ryerson version, but just protect your feet.
No, I didn't say you have to be unclothed. I said if given the choice between clothing and shoes, choose the shoes.
Which is not only an anniversary tip that Rob Ryerson has for couples in their second and third decades of marriage, it's also a safety tip. All right. We were going to try to keep this one short today, but we just can't get enough. Oh, look, in all honesty, all the best to Joe Biden, but look, prostate cancer has been spoken of as the kind of cancer that, for the most part, doctors will tell you, it's the kind of cancer you will die with, not the kind of cancer you will die from. But if you're 82 and it's moved to other parts of your body, the American population should prepare itself for the very real possibility that there will be a presidential funeral for the second time in Trump's second term. Jimmy Carter and Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Just think about that for a minute.
Well, that's a happy note to end on.
Hey, we're raising young, strong, confident people here.
That's right. That's right. And if you have to sit on the stairs and cry, facing the fact that the house could be destroyed,
so be it.
And that's why you've got your shoes on, we're going to be strong and brave.
This is why when she's older, she will have blocked out that dark pain and just said, my dad was so thrifty, he didn't want me to lose my shoes. He didn't want them to fly to Bentonville. Or as Kamala Harris told us after Election Day, everything's going to be all right. It's not all right. It's right now not all right. It's not going to be all right. The kids are not all right. Will we survive? Could we even thrive? Different question. What we consider now to be right is not what we now have. Things that a lot of us care about and love have been broken, damaged, destroyed by this president. And I don't know if we're Humpty Dumpty or something better, but the simple platitudes of it's going to be all right. I'm still mad about that one too. Apparently I have some just unresolved grief. I just can't get over a couple of things here. Nick, any final
Well,
glaring?
yeah, I just wanted to share. I think I may be having a James Comey moment, so I just want to get this out so I don't have this doesn't linger with me throughout the day. So if we were to use this apt analogy of hanging shoes or throwing shoes over a power line, I feel like historically every time that I've seen shoes over power lines, I've thought one of two things. Like, okay, this is a kid trying to bully or be funny, just to get rid of some other kid's shoes. Or I was like, is this a warning sign? Is this like some gang tribal thing going on? So I feel that, the 8647, maybe as James Comey should have known, being in a position as like his, is like, I'm like, before we go that route, I want some clarity on this.
Nick, the absurdity of the joke of doing that is that is an indicator from the 80s of a place where drugs are available.
Okay, see? Yep.
That it is, I was...
Oh, see, I thought it was marked gang territories.
Yes, but specifically drug dealing gang territory. Like, this is
you seem to have a lot of knowledge of this.
I do. I know.
So as
I know this particular 1980s cultural reference. So yes, that was I assumed people would know that was already taken, and I was playing myself the fool.
Okay, all right.
Joke. So no, I do not think we should throw tied shoes over phone and power lines. But I do think we could travel with shoes like a shoe drive.
I like it.
Because we think it's going to take a little more soul in America. You done?
We're done.
Hey, happy Memorial Day, everybody. If we don't see you before then.
Cheers.
You know what's great for people that don't know? And we're still live. Yeah, just for another minute.
Yeah.
What I see on the screen here, for the button to push when the stream is done, even though we say done, it says finish, as in it is finished. And I had a friend that said meat when it's cooked is done. A human activity is finished, not done.
Oh goodness.
So it is finished.
It's very biblical.